Welcome back to my shed. I'm Paul Hopewell, and this is where I make all sorts of stuff, usually for old or classic motor vehicles or machines. And I show you what I went through to finish the project. This video is about how I went about making a couple of wheel studs for a 1959 Morris LC5 flatbed truck. But first, for those of you that have been waiting for more videos from me, the absence has not just been because I've moved home. It was also because someone accused me of stealing their copyright music, despite the music being provided by Apple as free to use with my editing software. As a result, I have now had a piece of music written specifically for me called Blueprints, and I hope you like it. Anyway, back to the project. I've been tasked with making two studs, one left-hand thread and one right-hand thread. To make these studs I spent a little time researching the material. The original studs had a hardness of Rockwell 45, so I obtained some pre-hardened EN19T for the studs and EN16T for the nuts. After machining, the hardness just tipped over the Rockwell scale of 55, hopefully not too hard. Despite this, the material was tough to machine and not very friendly to the tooltips. Alongside these studs I had the task of making two wheel nuts and two locking nuts. Both pairs require left and right hand threads. The threads are 5/8 BSF and the hex on the nuts are 1/2 inch Whitworth, but they will be shown a little later. What you see here is the preparation for the thread. The bar is 1 inch diameter and the spigot is being machined to 5/8 of an inch diameter. After chamfering and deburring, I lopped off the bit that contained the remainder of the required stud with the bandsaw. And after relocating the workpiece back in the jaws, it allowed me to machine the thread diameter on the other side up to a shoulder that when finished will be 1/4 inch wide and will eventually be sporting two flats to take a 3/4 inch AF spanner. I was very careful not to take deep cuts, as this could heat up the material close to the critical tempered temperature, possibly losing its certified tensile strength if I wasn't careful. The other reason I was taking my time is that this little lathe was finding it pretty hard going. I only showed you making one stud, but I actually made two, as I also did with the nuts. This bit of material is from EN16T. This is the bit that I made the nuts out of. I did rough mark the material with a Sharpie pen to get all 4 nuts out of it and to rough gauge the positions, leaving big gaps just in case I bust a tip trying to part the material later. After pre-roughing the material with this high-speed steel cutter, I realised that high-speed steel was not going to cut it. Not without breaking. After all, the material doesn't lend itself to a very bright finish anyway. When I'd done turning the material, I mounted the universal head on the mill and prepared to cut the hex. When the hex was finally finished, I'd almost wiped out the marks that I made indicating the gaps. Now it's time to mill the spanner flaps on the stud flanges. As you can see, I still use the wet tissue trick for gauging the tool distance from the workpiece. Coupled with the digital readout, I can get an open limit fairly crack on, barring the tissue error. But this isn't a problem in this case because it's a spanner size. When I checked it, it was 751 thou across these flaps. To create the 5/8 inch BSF stud threads, I used the South Bend lathe, and it was set at the slowest speed I could get. And to cut the threads, I chose a cobalt tool, as the high-speed steel cutters weren't having a good time with this material. Because the thread was of a reasonable length, I didn't think I'd need a dead centre, but oh, how wrong I was. The threads were very quickly showing signs of distress until I steadied it all up using the tailstock. Obviously I couldn't run the thread all the way down to the shoulder, so after getting what thread I could do on the lathe, the last 3/8 of an inch I used a hand die to thread up to the shoulder. This was only on the longest thread though. The other side is as you see here. I'm showing a little bit of the left hand thread cutting process here. For this I used a preformed 14 TPI cutting insert mounted in one of my old tool holders. The reason was because I hadn't got a cobalt cutter dressed up for the left hand threads. As with the right hand thread, I used a die for the last 3/8 of an inch up to the flange face. You'll notice that I engaged this feed screw first, then plunged in with the cross slide. The cut had to stop as soon as the thread finished, otherwise the main carriage would come into conflict with the tailstock. Now it's time to get on with finishing the nuts. I started with cutting the hex section into two parts, one for threading to the right hand and the other one for left hand. And before I get going, I checked the material for run out. It was out, but only by 2 thou. I decided during a senior moment to machine the face to length. While I was reducing this face, I thought I'd better stop and drill the hole first, otherwise I'm going to lose my centre. I was also going to try and drill with a high-speed tapping drill, but it was probably a bit risky, so I opted for a cobalt pilot drill first. End of the senior moment. It was probably a good job that I did. The remaining material still caused the drill to dull. As far as threading the nuts were concerned, I used a set of taps rather than a boring bar because it was a bit tight in there. The stud went in quite well and with very little play, but the bit I cut using the die was a tiny bit tight. I left it like this to save altering the good thread. Besides, the nut probably doesn't go all the way when it's in place anyhow. Now I've got to finish the 45° chamfer and the 3mm recess. But first I completed the overall length. To cut the 45° chamfer I used a triangular insert, allowing me to nibble at the chamfer to rough it out, and then it allowed me to make a full face light skim at a higher speed to clean up. To machine the 3mm deep recess, I used a boring bar. Now, as I couldn't hold the nut the other way round, I used the remains of the old stud after a bit of a clean to support the nut whilst I skimmed and finished the face of the locking nut. I used the chamfering tool to put a decorative edge on the nut and to deburr the ball. The ball being deburred will allow the live centre to sit in the ball whilst I use the parting off tool to separate both nuts. You can see here the carbide tip had a job and a half to do, judging by the way it's shaking the camera. With the separation complete, all I had to do here was face off to size, then deburr and decorate. Now I need to finish off the lock nuts by facing off, deburring and decorating. And there we have it. One left hand and one right hand stud with accompanying wheel nuts and locking nuts. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you soon. Bye for now.